With this one, I would also say, like, trust your gut, but don't. So, I want a cat named Racktooth now. And it only gets worse. Hello, lovely bookworms, and welcome to a new video. Today was supposed to be reading vlog day, but as you can probably hear from my voice, I don't feel too great. I feel okay, but not amazing. So I thought I would do a little bit of a get ready with me while I talk about my autumnal favorites. So I actually made a list of 15 books, and I thought as I do my makeup, I will talk you through it. So let's just start with that. I'm gonna clip my hair back. Does this even? Let's hope this works. I bought these new, and I have no idea if it works, but at least it's out of my face, right? It's the most important thing. There we go. Alright. Hair is out of the face. I'm gonna start with a primer. I think I'm gonna use my Marshmallow primer from NYX today. And let's just immediately get into my first favorite. This is also my most recent favorite, and that is none other than Daisy Darker. Daisy Darker is a book that definitely has a huge, how do you say it, like a wink to And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. Mostly due to the fact that it is sort of a similar kind of story. So we follow Daisy Darker, who gets invited to her Nana's 80th birthday alongside her other family. And her family is not necessarily the nicest to her. Let's just say it like that. And at the strike of midnight, Grandma ends up dead. And as you sort of progress through the story, it gets increasingly more unhinged, which is really cool. I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And in general, I just feel like this is the type of book that I enjoy. Let me see, where is my... I need my hand sanitizer. So as I was saying, the deeper you get into the story, the more unhinged it gets. And I definitely think I don't... So... that was intense. And in general, I just really enjoyed it. I don't think I put And Then There Were None on this list. No, I didn't. But I would definitely count that among my favorites. So I'm gonna sort of link it together with Daisy Darker. I mean, I feel like a lot of people would have already read And Then There Were None. If they are looking for something similar, Daisy Darker definitely gets you started. I really enjoyed it. The characters are great, and yeah, I think you guys would really enjoy it. So I put my eye primer on. I have switched because I'm now starting with my eyes. That said, let's move on to the second favorite. This is one that's not necessarily very cool toned, but I am personally a lover of anything that has to do with murder during the autumn season. I think it's also due to the fact that it's sort of spooky season. And so the next one I want to add to this list is One of the Girls. Before we do that, I am using my Anastasia Nouveau palette again and just going into the warm tones. I think that's what I'm going to do today. So One of the Girls is actually about a group of girls who are going on a hen party. So one of the main protagonists is actually getting married, and then they go with 6 girls to Greece. This was such a fun book, which I picked up at the airport when I was flying back from England. And in general, I just feel like it was one of those books that you can't put down. I really loved the vibes of it. In general, the characters were just great. I just really enjoyed that book in general. I won't say too much about it because I feel like it will probably spoil some of the fun. But it is definitely one of those unhinged, fun kind of stories where you're trying to figure out all of it as you go. These characters' backstories are also really interesting, and with this one I would also say, like, trust your gut, but don't. I don't know how to say it, but if you're looking for a fun mystery thriller, murder mystery thriller, I would say this is definitely something that you will like. Especially with murder mysteries, I feel like it's better not to know too much as you go into them, so I won't say too much, but definitely a recommendation. Next up is another recent read, and that is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is about a girl who's, I think, mute. She is able to hear you, but she can't speak. She's a mute, and she lives at this, I think, home for young girls. And then one day she gets a message from her uncle to get her back home, and so she goes back to Gallant, and she learns a lot more about her mother and her father and her history. It's definitely a spooky, thrillery kind of book, which is definitely what drew me to it. I think it's perfect for the autumn season, and it's perfect for spooky season as well. I've been meaning to read a lot more spooky books this year, and I think this one definitely fits the bill. Like, it's not terrifying in that sense, but it's just very mysterious and dark, and in that sense just very, very enjoyable. So I will definitely recommend it for this time of year, and I think that you will really enjoy it as well. Next up, I want to mention one which is kind of the odd one out, because something I like to do during this autumn season, or during the autumn season in general, is reread comfort reads. So the book that I've put on this list is The Wrath on the Dawn, because it's my all-time favorite to reread, and it's definitely something that I'm planning to do in this autumn season again. I don't know what it is with autumn season and rereading books, but it just feels like the perfect timing of the year to just relax, grab a book, and reread. I know that a lot of people do that in December as well. For me, it's the autumn season. I just like, I don't know, I just like knowing that whenever I read something during the autumn season, it's something that I will enjoy. So for me, that is The Wrath on the Dawn. I do have a lot more that I would like to reread, but The Wrath on the Dawn is the obvious one here. Next up is one that would also be a reread for me. I mean, all of these would be rereads because I've read them. I've just realized. But this next book is on here due to the fact that I also really like to read retellings during the autumn season. And so the one that I'm putting on here is one that I feel like is not as well known as some others, and that is Cruel Beauty. This is a Twisted Tales, but not in the Twisted Tales series. Twisted Tales, it's definitely a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and we follow a girl who's married to, or who gets married to a monster, and she basically figures out what is going on in this house that she now lives in as we go, which, I don't know, it's just, it was such an interesting story. I've read it a couple years ago, and I still to this day think that it's one of the most interesting ones that I've read, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe it, but it just has a certain flair that just makes sense, if you know what I mean. So I don't know, it is that type of retelling that sits with you for a long time, and that is something that I really like about retellings. If it's something special or something that in general you just, because there's so many retellings that it is hard to find one that feels renewing and refreshing, and this one was definitely all of the above, which I really, really enjoyed. So next up, we're going back to the murder mystery genre, and the one I'm going to put on this list is a Hercule Poirot book. As you probably know, I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie's Poirot, both the TV show that has aired as the books themselves, and the one that I've picked out for this list is the ABC Murders. It's, I wouldn't say a lesser known one, but definitely not one of the big ones like Murder on the Orient or Death in the Nile, but the ABC Murders gives me all of those autumnal vibes, which I think is perfect for this season. If you want to read Poirot, I definitely recommend you start with the first one, The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which is also very autumnal, but for this one I'm gonna put the ABC Murders on there. If you've already read them, maybe it's time for a reread. There's a lot of books in that series, so I'm pretty sure there will be one book that you've not remembered as well as you would have liked, and so I can only say reread them. They're so worth it. So there you go. Next up is a murder mystery that is amongst my all-time favorite, not necessarily because of the book it is, but because of the subgenre it is sitting in, and that is One by One by Ruth Ware. One by One is a secluded murder mystery that is set in, I think, somewhere high in Canada. I could be completely wrong, but I thought it was like high in Canada. I think it's some type of lodge, and one of the guests ends up dead. One of them is missing. There's just a lot going on in this story, and I really enjoyed reading this one. I think I read it in one go when I read it about a year ago, I think I read it about a year ago. And in general, it was just such a fun read. I personally liked locked room mysteries because I have the feeling that I can actually try and figure out what happened. Of course, you don't have all the information, but then again, the characters in the books don't either. And I just like trying to figure out with the characters which person did it, like who was the killer. And I don't know, I am a big murder mystery fan. I don't know, I just really enjoy it. And One by One by Ruth Ware, I think, is also my favorite Ruth Ware book that I've read. I think I've read 2 or 3, I think. And this one was definitely my favorite. The other 2 I've read were a little bit less, but I really enjoyed this one. And if you want a locked room murder mystery, this is definitely one that you should check out. So next up, speaking of murder and mystery, I'm gonna put Kingdom of the Wicked on here. I think this one was situated in, I think it was Italy, but I'm not completely sure, I could be wrong. And this book follows one of 2 twins. It follows Amelia, and her twin sister Vittoria gets murdered, and then she wants vengeance, and she wants to figure out who did it to her. And in doing so, or in trying to do so, she actually summons one of the wicked, one of the 7 deadly sins, and the one she summons is Wrath. Wrath is one of my absolute favorite characters ever. I love him. I love the first book, love the second book. I'm planning to read the 3rd book this season. And I don't know, it's my weak spot. This book is my weak spot, and excuse me. And in general, I just really like the characters. I really like the way the story goes. I can't wait for the 3rd book, to read the 3rd book. It has just come out, and I think you will like it as well. It's one of those weird fantasy books that have a very autumnal vibe, and I think you will enjoy it immensely. Next up is a little bit more of a weird one, but I am gonna put Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman on this list. This is a book that has short stories about Norse myths, Norse mythology, so it has Thor, it has Loki, there's all different types, Freya, there's all different types of gods here, and not all of their stories, but quite a few also well-known stories are done in this. And I really like the way in which this one is presented. I don't know what it is, but I just really enjoyed it. And it is also a lot easier to put away. I know that some of us have some seasonal slumps. If you have a slump during the autumn season, I think this is the perfect book to get you out of that slump, because it's not that heavy and you can just read one story and then put it away. At least you are reading, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna put that one on the list. I'm going to use my Coty Airspun powder as we move on to the next one. The next one is another locked room murder mystery, and that is An Unwanted Guest. This one is about, I think, a couple or a woman who goes on a retreat somewhere. Again, they are snowed in, so it's definitely, it gives you all of those cozy vibes with murder. And our main protagonist, as the night grows on, they have to stay together because there's a murder on the loose. So The Unwanted Guest, and it is such an interesting story. Also trying to figure out what is happening, who's doing this. In general, it was such a good book. I did not expect it when I first picked it up, because I thought it would be one of those fun kind of just a locked room, we'll figure it out, but it's definitely a lot more thriller than you think. If you read this at night, I literally read it under the covers being scared, which was great. I really needed that at that point. And it's definitely one of those books that sits with you, if that makes sense. Like, I still remember it quite well to this day, and I read it about a year ago, so I can definitely recommend it. It's really good. Okay, so we have 5 more books, and I still have a couple of steps to do, so I'm not sure if I have to get a move on with the books or get a move on with my makeup. It really depends on the speed in which I do things. Moving on, number 11 and number 12 are actually both by the same author, and I'm going to start with The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. The Hunting Party is actually about a group of friends who go to this lodge to go out and party, and you follow all different types of narratives, and then one of them is a murderer and one of them ends up murdered. It's one of those perfect locked room murder mysteries. I do have to say that not all of the characters were as likable as I would have liked. Like, all of them had problems, and I do have to say that that is very logical because people are human and everyone makes mistakes, but on the other hand, some of them were really characters I did not like, but that's okay. Definitely a cool murder mystery to try and solve. Then the next one is actually The Guest List. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put my eyeliner on and I'll be back because I can't do eyeliner and talk at the same time. So give me a minute. Okay, so eyeliner is on. I just can't seem to get both eyes straight every single time, and it bothers me so much. But then I try and fix it and it only gets worse, but I do it anyway. See, that's definitely worse. Anyway, let's move on to the next book. Okay, so the next book I wanted to talk about was, as I said, The Guest List. And The Guest List is actually about a wedding, and we follow different characters that go attend this wedding, the bride, the groom, and all different type of guests that come from either the bride's side or the groom's side, and then one of them ends up dead. Both of these actually sort of, you have to figure out who gets murdered along the side of who murders it, who's the murderer, if that makes sense. But I think both of these from Lucy Foley are such interesting stories. Like, you follow both the murderer as the one who gets murdered, and it gives a new dimension to the genre, I feel. And it's either something that you really enjoy, I did really enjoy it, or you don't. Same thing as with The Hunting Party. This one doesn't necessarily have the best group of people, as in I don't like all of the people that are in here, but that's okay. I can't like everyone, I suppose, and maybe that's the intention of the author, who knows. But I really liked both of these, and I think they would be perfect for the autumn season. So next up is a book that is more of a series kind of thing than a single book, but that is Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. I think the Wayward Children series is perfect for this season. They are short, they are fun and painful, but also just so interesting, and I think that you would really enjoy them. You can also just sit and do a week of just these books and I think you'd be fine. The audiobooks are amazing. You cannot go wrong with this series, and you will definitely have some books that you like more than others because some of them have characters that you will resonate with more, or just storylines that you find more interesting than others, which is totally logical because you follow different characters, you follow different stories, you go through different worlds and portals, but they're absolutely brilliant and I think that you will like them so much. My battery is nearly dead. Oh, I hope I can finish this video. I'm scared I won't, but I'll hear when it cuts off. So yeah, definitely can't finish this video. I still have to do my face makeup. So I'm gonna quickly change batteries and I'll be right back. The angle probably shifted a bit, but we're back. I've changed the battery and I was doing my mascara. So as I was saying, the Wayward Children series would be perfect for this autumn season, or just any autumn season depending on when you're watching this video, and I hope that you will love them as much as I do. So there's only 2 more books left on this list, and I think the next book would be absolutely perfect, or is the most perfect book to put on this list, and that is The Lantern's Ember. Even looking at the cover, which I hopefully have on this side, you will see that it's perfect. It has a jack-o'-lantern, and it's definitely, it literally is about a jack-o'-lantern, kind of. So we follow our main protagonist who basically meets a jack-o'-lantern, and kind of, but at least someone who is a lantern. It'll be explained in the book. And then there's lots of mysteries and lots of things to explore and figure out, and in general it was just such a fun and renewing book. I feel like I haven't read anything quite similar to this, or remotely similar at all. And I think it's just the perfect book for this season. It's definitely autumny, fall. It is all of those vibes that you need and want during the season. I personally really enjoyed it. It's such a fun book, and it really surprised me. I actually bought it for the cover. I know, shameless, but it's true. I bought it for the cover, and it did not disappoint at all. I would definitely read this again soon if I can, if I have the time and sort of the energy to do so. But it is the perfect sort of fall, autumny read that you will encounter during this time of year. Okay, so the final couple steps, I have actually done bronzer, which is the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer in Light, I think. I don't know. And the Milani blush in Luminoso, which is beautiful. I'm now going to use my Mary Luminizer, which is entirely too old. I need a new one. Can you see that? But I got this for my birthday a couple years ago, actually. And I know that I'm supposed to not use it that long, but look how beautiful it is. I'll buy a new one at some point. That said, there is one more book on the list. And I'm actually putting this book on the list. One, because it's perfect for the autumn season. But I would read this sort of at the end of the autumn season, because it perfectly transpires you into winter. And that is none other than Even the Darkest Stars by Heather Fawcett. This is a book that has entirely stolen my heart. So in this one, we actually follow Tamsin. Tamsin wants to be a explorer, and then one day when the royal explorer actually sort of literally comes to her doorstep, she gets the opportunity to go with him on an adventure, and she does. I just love our main protagonist. We have a cute animal sidekick in the form of Racktooth. I want a cat named Racktooth now. He's a fox, but I want a cat named Racktooth. And just in general, all of the characters are so interesting. I love their journey, both in the first and the second book. It's a duology, and I think you cannot go wrong with this. It is one of those books that will sit with you for a long time, and I know that you will enjoy, so I can only recommend it. It is stunning, it's pretty, I love every minute of it, everything. I can't do lipstick and talk at the same time. Okay, lippy is on. So, yeah, I think that will perfectly transpire you from the autumn season into the winter season. That said, I've actually finished my makeup. What I'm going to do last is do some setting spray. I still have the Revolution Matte Fix. I don't like this. I'm finishing this up because it stinks. Like, it sets my makeup well, but it stinks. So, that said, the makeup is done. I'm completely done. Everything is on. I'm ready for the day, ready to do some filming because there's a couple of videos that I want to film. And I want to thank you all so much for watching. I have shared with you 15 books that I think are perfect for the autumn season to get you over into the winter season. So if you've read any of these, let me know. If you're interested in reading any of these, also let me know. Again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and press that little bell icon so you get post notifications every single time a video goes up. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!